by far the most important event in the history of Russia is the visit there in 1971 by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness and the foremost proponent and propagator of full-fledged theism in the world in the modern age. When Srila Prabhupada was in Russia, in Moscow, he visited Moscow only, he famously said, predicted, that Russians will become first-class theists. So my message to Russians is, become first-class theists. You have the blessings of Prabhupada, now do it. How? What do you do to become a first-class theist? It's not just by imagination. Just you can imagine yourself to be a gopi in Vrindavan. That won't work. And it's not just simply by joining ISKCON. That's also not there. Of course, that's a good step. But one actually has to follow the process that Srila Prabhupada gave. Everyone who comes to Krishna consciousness is expected to not just come in, but to go up. Generally, people join at the neophyte level. Jaha komal shraddha, shri kanishta jan, krame teho hoibe bhakta uttam. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu defined a neophyte devotee as one whose faith is pliable, not strong. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that such a person can gradually become a topmost devotee. But how does it work? Well, we have to follow the process. Rising early in the morning, the process that Srila Prabhupada gave, the process that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave. Rising regularly in the morning, chanting at least 16 rounds of the Mahamantra very carefully, daily, strictly following all the 4 regulated principles. If one makes one's life goal to be a pure devotee of Krishna and follows the process that Srila Prabhupada gave us assiduously, then the result will be there. Gradually one will rise from the neophyte level, or if one has such a conviction to do so, that immediately, if one has the conviction that I have to follow this process very carefully and seriously, and make my goal to be fully Krishna conscious, then that just by that determination, one automatically comes to the madhyam stage, the middle level devotee, the devotee who's really clearly on the path to pure devotional service. A topmost devotee is defined in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Actually, there are many descriptions. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are several verses in the 11th canto. There's one verse describing the position of a neophyte, one verse describing the position of a middle-level devotee, and there are several verses describing the position of a topmost devotee. And there are many verses throughout Bhagavatam, and so many Hari Bhakti Kalpalatika, and so many places. There are Bhakti Ratnavali. There are so many descriptions of pure devotees or on the topmost platform. And the one which is generally cited in this regard by Srila Prabhupada and others is Sarva Bhuteshu Yah Pashyad Bhagavad Bhavam Atmanaha Bhuteshu Bhagavat Atman Yesha Bhagavatotama. The topmost Bhagavat, the topmost devotee, is one who sees feelings for Krishna in every living being. He sees that everyone is a great devotee. He sees them in their original spiritual position. However, interestingly, Srila Prabhupada predicted that Russians would become first-class theists. He didn't say first-class devotees. Theist wasn't a word that Srila Prabhupada used very often. Devotee was a word which he used uncountable times, umpteen times. So why did he say first-class theists? Let's think about that a little bit. Theist, this term gives the idea of someone who is not just a regular believer in God, of whom there are so many throughout the world, but someone who is committed to the position of theism. Not just that one is by social circumstances, one happens to be a Christian, a member of such and such a church, or a Hindu, but one has actually seriously thought about it and is committed to the position of theism as opposed to agnosticism, atheism, or uncommitted religiosity, or formal religiosity. That one is a member of a religious group for maybe because one was born into it, or one is part of that group. It's part of one's social identity. So one who's committed, and this theist, someone who's proficient, who studies the scriptures, who's proficient in their understanding, this idea of a topmost devotee is given by Lord Chaitanya in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's a quite different definition of a topmost devotee. Of course, there may not be simply one definition. From various perspectives can be defined. So one definition given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we'll find in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Shastra Jukte Sunipun Drida Shraddha Ja Utamadhikari She Taraye Shongsha. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that one who is very expert in Shastra Yukti and who has firm faith is a topmost devotee, and such a person can deliver the whole world from the ignorance of not being Krishna conscious. Shastra Yukti, Srila Prabhupada translates that as one who is expert in scriptural arguments, or one who by understanding scripture, understanding the import, the purport of scripture, can meet others and convince them of the veracity of Krishna consciousness. Shastra Yukti can also mean one who is, or the matter of harmonizing apparently contradictory statements. In other words, someone who has very deep knowledge of scripture. So the idea of this sounds more like the word theist. Theist means a devotee means a theist, but Srila Prabhupada used this particular term, predicting that the Russians will become first-class theists. So someone who's expert in Shastra Yukti, harmonizing the statement of Shastras, just like we find in the Vedic literature, there are statements which might appear to uphold undifferentiated monism, as propounded by Sripad Shankaracharya and his followers. And there are others which appear to uphold dualism. Actually, having been trained by Srila Prabhupada, I don't see anything but dualism, although there is apparent monism. And the harmonization of this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. But there are so many issues which come up. How to settle and understand this. One should be expert in understanding this. And also it gives the idea, especially if we consider Srila Prabhupada's example, that Srila Prabhupada himself was expert in rebutting the theories of atheists, Mayavadis, mundane scientists, mundane people in general, mundane philosophers, and he wanted his disciples to carry the mantle, to continue doing that. Srila Prabhupada himself was clearly expert in scriptural understanding and in defeating all wrong ideas. So Srila Prabhupada wanted first-class theists. First-class theist is not only completely fixed in understanding his position as an eternal servant of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but is also able to impress on others a full sense of theism. When we say first-class theism, that suggests there's different levels. So definitely if we take the theistic religions of the world, because there are atheistic religions also, they're practically not religion. Buddhism is a prime example. But theism, there are different levels. Belief in God, going beyond belief, to have a comprehensive understanding as far as we tiny living beings can do, by the grace of God, how far we can understand Him. So a first-class theist should be able to impress on others a full sense of theism by understanding Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yomameva samudho janati purushottamam sa sarvavid bhajati mam sarva bhavena bharata. Krishna tells Arjuna, is getting toward the end of Bhagavad Gita, when he tells him this, that one who knows me, Arjuna, knows me, he's addressing Arjuna, me, Krishna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting, such a person knows everything, and he knows everything that he needs to know. And such a person, he worships Krishna in all respects. So one who's able to impress on others the full sense of theism, which includes not only understanding Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada introduced the personality of Godhead, full-fledged theism, to the Western world for the first time ever. An exposition of who is God. The long-standing question. Who is God? What is His nature? Srila Prabhupada revealed it all. So full-fledged theism means to understand Krishna as the all-attractive Supreme Personality of Godhead, our relationship with Him, and theism is not just armchair philosophy, but full-fledged theism means actually, practically, surrendering to Krishna in selfless devotion without any other desire than to fully surrender to Him. So this is full-fledged theism and first-class theism, and a first-class theist, knowing the desire of Krishna, practices Krishna consciousness himself and tries to spread it to others. This was what Srila Prabhupada wanted everyone all over the world to do, but he had great hope that Russians, particularly, he didn't say, I predict they will become first-class theists anywhere else. He said it in Russia. So, you can go ahead and do it. There are so many intelligent people in Russia, materially very intelligent, no doubt, materially very intelligent, and you can take Srila Prabhupada's blessings and utilize your intelligence for the best purpose, which is to understand God and help others to understand Him. Become first-class theists by Srila Prabhupada's blessings. And in this way, you will make your human life successful. Now you may be a very intelligent Russian. Next life you may become a bear in Russia, or a tree in Siberia, or a fish in the Bering Straits, or take birth on a different planet or a different country altogether. So better utilize our intelligence properly. The best use, or the proper use of intelligence, having attained this rare human form of life, is to inquire about the nature of reality, and the fulfillment of that inquiry is to understand Krishna and to fully dedicate oneself to Him. And further, even going further, is there anything further? Yes, to benefit others also by trying to share this knowledge. Russia, in the history of the last 1,000 years or so, has always been a major country on the world map. It's always been a powerful country. It's always been an influential country. Now, Russia should come up as the nation which spearheads theism all over the world. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted Indians to do it. Indians are doing it, but it's not one man's job or one nation's job. Srila Prabhupada had great hope for the Americans, but Russia and America, they've been in contest with each other practically since the end of the Second World War. USSR, wasn't Russia exactly at that time. So if Russians want to outdo Americans, you can cooperate with them also by spreading Krishna consciousness very widely. Establish Russia as a spiritual center. Russia already, in the sense that naturally it's the center of the Russian Orthodox Church, but with all due respect to the followers of the Russian Orthodox system or any other Orthodox system of Christianity or any other religion or philosophy, if we study, we'll find the theistic knowledge given by Srila Prabhupada is more developed. So why not take this knowledge and make Russia strong by spiritual strength? Russia, why not be a superpower, and not just one superpower, but why not become the prominent superpower and lead the world? How? How are you going to do that? Make more bombs, missiles, drones? No. But by spiritual strength. The world needs a new direction for leadership, or at least in Russia. So many Russians, even though so many Russians have taken to Krishna consciousness, still the vast majority have not. There's a lot of work to do within Russia itself. And let people at least know what Srila Prabhupada came to give by distributing his books very widely. Most Russians still have not heard of Srila Prabhupada. Definitely in Russia, that Srila Prabhupada visited Russia, and the importance of that should be taught compulsorily in all the schools. It's not done. You can make that one of your goals for the Russian devotees together. So at least within Russia, Tara Edesh, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, you deliver this land. If you can't deliver the whole world, then at least your own country. There's so much potential for spreading Krishna consciousness in Russia. Now, this doesn't mean that only Russians should or can become first-class theists. The potential is there for everyone. Why not Ukrainians, Georgians, Azerbaijanis, Uzbeks? Why not everyone? Why not Africans? If America wants to compete with Russia, why not compete to distribute more of Srila Prabhupada's books? It's pretty tight. Russia was ahead, Russia fell behind. Or who can be the most spiritual country? Who can lead the world out of its ridiculous state at the present time where everything is running on conflict? The political leader of Russia for the last so many years, Gospodin Putin, he seems to favor he often talks about how instead of competing, why don't we cooperate? So take it a step further. That's what he's trying to promote as an international policy, which makes sense. But why not take it a step further? What will be the basis of that cooperation? Understanding that we are all one nation under God. We are all living. Actually, when we say Russian, American, Chinese, Indian, these are only bodily designations. With the body comes cultural designations. But ultimately, we are all spiritual beings. We're all part and parcel of the same God who ultimately, in first-class theism, is to be understood as Krishna. So why not, if you're going to compete, why not compete to be the most saintly? And if we're saintly, then we won't be competing to outdo each other in military technology. Or maybe we may need to as long as others do so. But that should not be seen as the sign of our greatness. We want to propagate that real greatness is to rise above the animal propensities of fighting and come to the spiritual platform of cooperating humbly in the service of God, Krishna. And of course, I said Georgians, Azerbaijanis, Indians, first and foremost, should become Krishna conscious. Everyone should become Krishna conscious, but it's expected more in India. Bharata bhumite hoilo manusha janma ja janma shata kari karo para upaka. It is expected more in the land of India that those who have taken birth as humans in this land shall make their life perfect by spiritual cultivation and do good to others by spreading this spiritual knowledge, which means Krishna consciousness. So, in brief, that's my message to Russia, is the same as the, just slightly worded a little differently, Srila Prabhupada. The same message that Srila Prabhupada gave. Srila Prabhupada predicted that Russians would become first-class theists, and my challenge, if you like, to Russians or prayer to Russians. Be first-class theists. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.